And it's 2 files. I don't have to edit, and it'll be 2 video files, and I've been playing a lot with the video, which is fun. So yeah, so what's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Dork Trek. We have a special guest joining us today. We're making like dreams come true today here on Dork Trek.
Yes.
We have I guess a longtime listener.
Yep, long-time listener, first-time caller. Thanks for having me.
You get to actually be on the show. Now, it's funny because I knew James in Virginia Beach, and then James Thomas moved to Cincinnati, and I live in Cincinnati now. And we see each other just about as much as we did when we lived in Virginia Beach, which is not at all, because he lives like in Hamilton or some shit. Like that's really far away.
I'm a good, healthy hour away from you because you're on like the other side of Cincinnati. You're not even on the cool side.
No, west side's for chumps, bro. I'm sorry. The west side of Cincinnati.
On this show.
The west side's not the best side. I think that's the truth. We all know it. I mean, like, and technically, you don't even live in Cincinnati. You live like in Hamilton.
I don't. I live in Hamilton. Hamilton is like the poor man's Cincinnati.
Yeah, you live like in pretend Cincinnati. Like I can claim 513, and I'm real natty. My kids go to Cincinnati public schools and all that shit. But you're just
513, buddy.
You're just faking. You're just faking it.
Stop acting like we both aren't still sporting a 757 phone number, though.
Yeah, because I'm not changing my phone number. That's too hard. Like then you got to give it to people. It's too difficult. All right, so yeah, and then Jenny's here as well. Ben dropped out of the episode because he said it was too real for him. It was too much, and I get that. And Dennis is probably just sleeping.
See, that's one of the reasons why I loved the episode, though, was because I mean, there's still plenty of jokes to be made throughout the course of this thing, I'm sure, but the seriousness is like the thing that blew me away about it.
Mm-hmm. It's real. I mean, this episode should be called Hard to Watch.
But it was good. It was
no.
Really good.
It is really, really good. Like it's a very emotional and very like well done episode, but it's hard to watch. Like, I feel you got to feel for O'Brien, son, because I mean, like, James, you said you took notes, right?
Yeah, I did like the show notes thing just because I wasn't sure. If everybody was going to be here tonight and like how, because I've never done this with you guys before, I wasn't sure how it was going to work. So I've got like the show notes to discuss before we like veer off on tangents. Like
we're going to veer off on tangents anyway. Like that's going to happen. There's no rhyme nor reason why that will happen. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Like the notes are fine, but this is kind of like a one beat episode. Like you kind of get what's happening. Like, they explain everything in like the first 50 seconds.
Like before the credits even, I think.
Yeah.
It's the episode that I like to call Deep Space Nine presents O'Brien's Inner Light. Because that's basically what it was.
I can see that. It's kind of an inner light thing, but this is way, way darker than like Picard finding a fucking space flute. This is the episode that like a follow-up to Inner Light should have been, where they actually talk about it, like how he was after the experience. How they murder people.
Yeah, because we don't actually see O'Brien's experience through this whole thing. You see how it affects him afterwards, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. It's like watching an episode of Arrow. You see the flashbacks that matter to what's happening in the present day.
I don't watch this show. I tried. Just don't give a fuck. Yeah.
It's only worth watching for like the first 2 seasons.
Well, the first season was pretty good, and then I just stopped caring.
I don't watch any of the DC shows anymore. They all got a little silly.
Yeah,
no
kind of
offense to anybody who might be listening that is on the DC shows.
I heard that Black Lightning is a big fan. He's a big fan. And so is James L. Martin, who was on Law & Order, who, if we get enough Patreons, we're going to do a Law & Order podcast. I wonder if there is do you think there is a Law & Order podcast?
We can look it up. I'm sure there's a podcast for everything.
All right, I'm going to look it up. A Law & Order.
I mean, the show's only been on for like 150 years, so
The Law and Order podcast. These are the stories. A podcast about TV's most enduring crime franchise, Law and Order. All right, these are the stories. So far, that's the only one I've seen, though. Like, that's weird that there's not thousands of these things. Oh, they do all the shows, too? Wow. And they're still updating. They do SV. I don't really like SVU. I don't see why those crimes just don't land on regular crime, but whatevs. I think it's just used to talk about Sid.
Because then there wouldn't be a separate show just for that.
Somehow that whole show is like a little bit too dark for me to watch regularly. Like I can watch the ones with people dying, but when it talks about, people getting raped and stuff, and it's like, no, that's too much for me. It's a weird line.
No, I agree. And you can't watch it with the kids around it's just too much rape for me. Like I don't like that much rape in my entertainment. You know what I mean? Like maybe there's a better way for me to present that, but I don't like all the rape, it's just too much for me. Like the original Law and Order, there was a nice mix of brutal murders and some my favorite episodes of Law and Order, and this is nothing to do with anything, like when they wrap up the case very quickly and then McCoy decides to sue or go after somebody else, like a gun manufacturer. Yeah. Like there's a shooting and then they wrap that up in 10 minutes, but then they're like, but now we're going after the gun manufacturers.
Or they find out that they found the wrong person guilty or something like that, and they have to go back and try again.
Do you know one of the best episodes of Law and Order is I guess it's after someone, after they execute someone, and then it's they all went to the viewing of the execution and they're hanging out at a bar. Have you seen that one? Oh, yes. That one's so good, dude.
That one was really good.
Yeah, I love that shit. God, I love that shit. I was really sad when Jerry Orbach died. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I'm just gonna sit here and nod and smile. I've never watched Law
You've
and
never
Order.
seen Law and Order? Oh, dude,
I've seen
so good.
I've seen parts of I think Special Victims Unit when it was just on TV in the background, but it was never one that I got into. I don't really care for the procedural cop shows.
I don't either. And honestly, this was a show that I used to watch when I was trying to go to sleep. I would just put it on because I'm I can just put something on in the background. There's just dudes talking about somebody getting killed or whatever. I don't care. And just, the sounds of murder will just lull me to sleep.
I keep having the weirdest dreams.
But I can't sleep through SVU because it's too disturbing.
Too rapey. I feel
it's too rapey, yeah.
I think the only show along those lines that I ever really watched a significant amount of was NCIS, and that's only because it was always on at my parents' house.
Yeah, that show sucks. I'm sorry.
That show got infinitely cooler when I found out that the one dude was Zachary Binks on Hocus Pocus. So
now you lost me there too, son. I don't know. My mom watches NCIS and she gets mad because it's supposed to take place in Virginia, and she's like, "That's not what Virginia Beach looks like." I'm like, "Mom, nobody gives a shit." I think that's the only reason why.
There was an episode that I remember seeing where a murder happened at the Virginia Beach oceanfront, and the oceanfront as depicted in that show was lined with palm trees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's clearly a much nicer oceanfront. They're that's not what this area. There's no mountains around here. I'm like, all right, Captain fucking Carmen Sandiego. Who gives a fuck? What are you talking about? Golly. But anywho, so this episode is pretty much like we said. It's a one beat pony. O'Brien, he's in jail and he's got this big bushy beard, and he looks really cool with the big bushy gray hair and the big bushy beard. Yeah. I like Mountain Man Miles O'Brien.
What year is it?
Grizzly Adams beard.
He looks, because for some reason why he was never cast in the Lord of the Rings movie is beyond me, but this is as hobbity looking as he'll ever get. Mm-hmm. And I think it really draws me in instantly. I'm like, oh shit, they made him a hobbit. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see more.
He practically is a hobbit.
Yeah, but he's not. But why was he not in the movies?
Was that a hobbit look, or was that more of a dwarf look?
Same thing. I'm talking fantasy Lord of the Rings kind of.
Not the same thing, Bob.
I mean, it's different but same. When I say Hobbit vibe or like Lord of the Rings, I'm talking the fantasy genre, like why he wasn't there playing an elf. Maybe not an elf, but like a dwarf.
I could definitely see him as a dwarf.
Yeah, like a little dwarf with his fucking hammer, like,
hanging out in Moria and shit.
Yeah, like one of the thousands of dwarves with the names that all kind of sound the same.
Yeah.
Boromir and Dormir and Tormir and Schlormir and Oaken Fork and
Oaken Fork.
Yeah, just guys like that. Like, I don't know why, but whatevs, what do I know? But yeah, so then they tell him that he's been in there for 20 years, and you're like, man, I haven't watched 20 years of the show. What's happening here?
For the crimes of espionage.
Yeah, and again, I like O'Brien. Espionage? Really?
I had to pay extra attention to it this time around because the first time I missed why they accused him of that. So the whole time I'm sitting there thinking that, like, did Cisco send him on a mission? And if you're going to send anybody on a spying mission, why the fuck did you send O'Brien? No. So I had to like actually pay attention and listen this time to find out the part where he was falsely accused.
Yeah, he was like fiddling with some equipment or something. I don't know.
He basically just stumbled into like a top secret room or something like that.
Yeah, like they never addressed why he was there. They like Cisco is talking to Keiko, and he says, he was real interested in their technology. These aliens that you've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And like he asked one too many questions, and they're like, well, why the hell are you being so nosy, guy?
No one questions the fucking the KGB. They threw him in jail. And how long did he actually serve in jail? For a few hours?
Yeah,
it was like 2 hours.
But they gave him 20 years of memories of jail, and they did it in 2 hours. Like, this is cruel and unusual punishment. Like, how is this happening in the 24th century or whatever year we're in here?
My first thought was that, like, in a way, it was actually kind of more efficient and like a better use of, or better way to like punish somebody without like actually taking their entire life away. Yeah,
didn't they actually say that in the show? Yeah. Like it's a more efficient process. Like I think that's what they said.
And basically, the whole purpose of putting somebody in prison is to like rehabilitate them and get them back. If they're going to release them at some point, to get them back into society. So basically now they can teach this person a lesson and, rehabilitate them in a shorter span of time without actually having to like keep them in prison for all that time and spend all the money and everything. I was like, that seems actually pretty good.
That'd be all fine and good, like if there was some rehabilitation going on, but this was just clearly like they were tortured. Yeah, they were just not feeding you and letting your hair get. I mean, nobody was going to this prison to get their GED. Like nobody came out like with a air conditioned repair degree or anything like that. Or these motherfuckers just come out hungry and dirty looking, So I guess it's just a form of torture that they can. We can squeeze 20 years of torture into 2 hours.
That is efficient.
I mean, and then it doesn't really cost you anything in actually like taking care of them for any significant amount of time. You don't actually have to feed them, even though apparently that wasn't something they were doing in the fake memories either. Yeah,
but then you're done, and then you're no harm, no foul, and then you're back as a broken corpse of a human being. And
broken shell of a man.
And your society is forced to deal with you. So, I mean, it just seems rather cruel and unusual that they would allow something like this to happen. O'Brien thinks it'd been 20 years, but it had been a few hours. Yeah. And he was... sad.
An interesting fun fact before we get too far past the opening scene is the female alien in that scene. I'm looking up the name now.
Hard times. These are hard times they put on this country of ours. Not her.
The character Rin, as she's called on IMDb.
Rin and Stimpy.
Sure. Is played by an actress named Margot Rose, who was also Picard's mediocre wife on The Inner Light.
Oh. I wonder if they did that intentionally as like a tie-in or something.
I would think so, because, again, like the whole idea of having 20 years go by when really it's only been a couple of hours is a very Inner Light scenario.
Guys, we'll be seeing her again when we get to our Law and Order podcast because she was in one episode of Law and Order Los Angeles.
Of course. Everybody's in Law and Order.
Everybody.
Hell, I was probably in Law and Order.
Everybody's. I love it when people come back for multiple parts on Law and Order. Like, no, man, you was in episode season 17 when you killed your wife, and now you back again as a witness. Like, that's always my favorite.
You're not supposed to know that.
I mean, but when you watch enough of them, I mean, because I started watching Law and Order once baseball season would end when I lived in Virginia Beach because I needed something to do, and Law and Order was on TNT for like 13 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And I would just sit down and watch 9 hours of Law and Order, and it was awesome.
I set my DVR to pick up the show, and it'll save like all of them.
That's awesome.
And it'll say like, because we have the YouTube TV, and it'll say like, which recording of this do you want? And it's like, it picks it up from every single channel. That's so awesome. Like at least 5 different networks are showing Law and Order at any given time.
I don't want to say I'm super jelly, but I am super jelly. Because Law and Order is just something that I can sit down. Trek is that way too. Like,
yeah,
I can just
like any episode.
Yeah, and I'll just watch it because I love it.
You have the YouTube thing.
Just I do.
Set it up on your library. Picks them all up for you.
See, I didn't know how to do that because I haven't gotten super comfortable with it yet, but I might have to start messing around with it.
It's pretty nice.
It seems pretty dope. I mean, if I could just record stuff. I had a Chromecast, but my kids broke it. So now the only way I can really watch it is if I'm downstairs because I don't have like the newer technologies.
Yeah.
Because I guess like you can do YouTube TV on like PS4 and Xbox 360 or whatever, or Xbox One or whatever the hell it's called. I don't have either one of those, so I just have to watch it with Chromecast. But that's cool, man. I got it.
Now, can you imagine if at the end of every Law and Order episode, they just hooked up somebody to the torture machine, gave them 4 hours of prison time?
Think about that. You could watch all episodes of Law and Order in 2 hours. That would be that's what I would use the prison machine for. I would sit down and I would watch every Law and Order episode. I'd be like, dude, I got 20 years, bro. Like I got to get 20 years of the show in. I can do it in 2 hours. Let's go. And then I would do Star Trek next. Like, all right, let's be watching.
Just reboot. You come back, you're good to go for another round.
That was amazing.
I like your way better.
Yeah.
It's efficient.
Me too. I mean, if it's one thing I'm known for, it's efficiency. Which isn't true either, but whatever. So we bring O'Brien back to the station, and he's all fucked up, obviously. And you know what? God bless O'Brien. I mean, God bless O'Brien, and God bless Julian. What a friend. What a good guy.
Julian just wants to know where his boyfriend's been for the last 2 hours.
Right?
Yeah, but I mean, like he's so caring, and like it's so nice. It's so nice.
They make such a cute couple.
They do. They really do. They really care for each other. There's a real love there.
Oh God, just wait until you get to. I want to say it's like the last episode of the series. No spoilers. Just it's.
Do they kiss?
I hope so. On the lips. Really.
No
hard.
comment.
Yeah.
But something is afoot. There's something odd happening here because when Julian asks him, so what's up? I mean, you were alone for 20 years. How did that go? And he's like, yep, all alone. Completely alone. And he's lying.
But wait.
But why is he lying about this? So I spent most of the episode just wondering why he was lying.
I think it was pretty obvious that because he was alone in the cell when they got him, I think it was pretty obvious where they were going with it. It was just a matter of what was the event that actually took place.
Totally alone. Not a care, not a soul in the world to talk to. Nobody at all. Nope. I didn't do any of that stuff. No way, Jose.
Definitely didn't kill my cellmate.
Yeah.
Whoa, spoilers.
Why would you even ask?
There was no case of murder ever in nope, not me, not O'Brien. That's not my thing. And that's more of an Odo / Kira murder thing. That's not an O'Brien thing.
No.
Murder? Nah.
But yes, we get a flashback of O'Brien being tossed into his cell, where, lo and behold, there is a green-skinned alien there to pour some kind of root juice in his mouth.
Yeah. What's his name? He's got a weird name.
HR.
HR? What's up, HR? How you doing? It's like, yo, sup? I'm your cellmate. I'm HR. And then he tried to convert. Then they tried to convert each other to like Muslims. Like they took on Islam, and then they got their GEDs, and it was real nice. They started doing push-ups, and then like an episode of Oz broke out. Like it was really weird.
Well, HR did say that he'd been in that cell alone for 6 years.
That's
so
a
he
long.
Needed to nurse Brian back to health real fast.
Yeah, that's a long time. This is a very, but I mean, like 6 years now. How many minutes is that? If he's been in there 6 years, is that like 45 seconds he's been in there, or?
It would be something like that. Because if 2 hours was 20 years, then 6 years would have been like. It probably would have been like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm horrible at math.
I mean, I'm okay with that. I think that's
close enough.
Yeah. I believe the old expression is good enough for government work.
Exactly.
I'm a good math bullshitter.
I think that's all you really need to be, unless you're like a scientist or a math teacher, perhaps. Then you need to actually kind of know the game. But if you're not, I mean, yeah, that's a rough estimate. Rough estimate. Bro.
I can just throw out 11 numbers and then something's gonna hit.
Yep, that's what's gonna happen. Oh, so yeah, we hard times. We got hard time blues, and then Deep Space Nine walking around the station. He gets some flashbacks. Then he sees Keiko, and then Keiko is actually transformed into an old hag of his friend HR, and you're like,
which really goes to show which person did he really want to see walk through that door.
I mean, did they have sex? I bet they had sex. Did they bang?
Spoilers, that's who he was thinking about when he snapped that dude's neck later on. Keiko.
Did they bang?
I'm sure they did.
Did HR and O'Brien have sex with each other?
Of course they did. Of course they did.
Who was bottom?
You're trapped in there for so many years. Like at some point, you're gonna experiment. You're gonna see what's up.
How quickly? Okay, since you're so
5 minutes.
It was just 5 minutes. Like, as soon as they threw him in, he just took his dick out and he's like, "All right, let's get it on."
Man, it's been a while.
Yeah, I haven't had a cellmate in 6 years. Guess what? We're having sex. And O'Brien was like, "Yeah, I guess that's cool. My wife's pregnant. She came back to the station. She didn't want to bang, so it's been a little while for me too. A couple hours. How about we just start? We'll watch each other jerk off first. I mean, banging right off the bat is kind of a commitment.
Yeah.
Let's just watch each other.
You got to work up to these things.
Yeah. And then, like, while I'm masturbating, like, let me blow a kiss at you and see if that.
And let me call you Julian.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that maybe they work their way up to the boat race.
Yeah, it's like, hey, who's Julian? Is that the name of your sweetheart back on the ship? Your wife? Like, yeah, wife, sure, yeah. Yeah, wife, yeah, wife. That's what it is, wife. Yeah, you got it. That's a very pretty name for a woman, isn't it? Not a man at all. Yep, I love my Julian. Such a wonderful woman. Am I right, guys? Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's just HR here. You're just talking to me, bro. What are you looking around?
He's looking into his The Office camera.
Right.
Shaking his head. HR. What's up, HR? But yeah, and then they just kind of, it's just, I don't want to, again, it's a great episode, but like it's Worf's playing darts with him, and then he sees HR, and then like, oh man, what's happening? And then, O'Brien wants to do work, and he's getting real grumpy, and like he hates his family. But I think that was just there.
Yeah.
The
time apart, I think, made him realize that he didn't want to be around them.
The whole episode was like the whole third act of the episode was basically just O'Brien interacting with the other members of the cast because they were contractually obligated to be there.
Yeah, he's just kind of grumpy. He's like not excited. He's like, everybody just leave me alone. Like, all right, that's what you want.
But what's funny?
sorry, this is about the time that he started having the visions of Ichar like in the ship, right?
Yeah. He was seeing Ichar everywhere, Jack.
What's funny is the first thing that he does when he gets back to the station is he tries to go back to work. So he's having the scene with Jake where he's trying to remember what all of the tools are so that he doesn't look foolish in front of his team. But, and this is something that I was thinking of even with the Inner Light and Picard, like if somebody thought that they just spent 20 years in prison, or even in Picard's case, 20, 30 years in just another life in general.
Yes, my lovely, wonderful life where I was a flute player.
Do you want to put that person back to work right away?
No, absolutely not. But I mean, they never do that. I mean, like, Picard was a fucking Borg, for God's sakes, who killed thousands of people. And, like, they just put him back on the ship in a couple weeks. Like, hey, you'll be fine.
Yeah, but at least with Picard, he's the ship captain. He's not really necessarily the one that does anything. O'Brien
he's the captain. He's the most important guy on the ship.
O'Brien's
do anything.
Sure, the space station doesn't like fall into the wormhole or lose life support.
I get what you're saying. Like he needs all that technical knowledge.
At least a week.
Right. Get him reacquainted with everything. Go to therapy a few times.
Yes, definitely go to therapy a few times.
Which we find out from Julian he was not doing.
No, he's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That sounds dumb to me.
Take some space Xanax.
All this stuff is dumb to me. Like, I'm not going to the doctor. I'm not going to talk about it. He's being very, like, stereotypical, like, Irish, kind of like, yeah, I'm not doing any of that stuff. Like, that's all stupid.
Because he's stereotypical Irish, what does he do when he gets really frustrated?
Smash shit.
Well, I noticed that, like, you can tell what kind of guy O'Brien is in this episode, too, because, like, when he starts losing it in the actual jail cell, he's like, I'll show you, fucking, and he points to his cock, and then, like, like, I got your fucking right here, and they're like, whoa, Brian just pointed to his ding dong, and then he's gonna beat his kid. Like at one point, like he like bucks up to Molly. She's like, Daddy. She's like, shut the fuck up, kid. And he's like, that's right, motherfucker. Like he gets all in her face, and you're like,
in all fairness, Molly was being really annoying.
I will say this: that kid loves to color.
She does.
So does mine.
That is the colorist kid. I mean, like, I think coloring's a real blast. I really enjoy it, too. But, I mean, Molly is the most colorless motherfucker in the whole wide world. Like, that's all she does. Because, like, when we saw her at the beginning of last episode, when they came back, she was coloring. And Miles was like, well, can I color? She's like, fuck no. I'm like, damn, bitch, why are you being like that?
It's probably the only thing they could get that kid to do on set.
Maybe.
Was color. Because I know, like, if my daughter's acting up and she like doesn't want to do anything, she's just sitting there like shouting, screaming, tell her to go color, and she sits down for a good hour just doing that. So that was probably the only thing they could get that kid to do on set, was to not like throw a fit on the camera, was just go sit down and color.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean, to be fair, coloring is pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I recently started coloring again myself because my daughter wants to do it all the time.
I love coloring. I have a Star Trek coloring book that I have, a Next Generation book.
Nice.
It's pretty rad. You can get it at Barnes & Noble or whatever, or online, perhaps.
I gotta get some good coloring books. I keep trying to get like fancy ones with like the designs and stuff, and then like they're too hard to color and they're not fun. Like I just want like regular cartoons.
Dude, I have the Star Trek book that I have, one of the, because it's scenes from the show, like drawn out by artists and stuff. One of them is where they're yelling to the fucking Klingon god to take another warrior. Like that's a page in the coloring book. Like there's a dead Klingon on the table and Worf and another guy are just standing there yelling at the fucking ceiling. It's amazing. They're warning fucking Stovacor about another warrior coming. It was awesome.
What was it? I think it was last Christmas or 2 Christmases ago. They released like the Die Hard and Home Alone coloring books.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
I'm into that. I love me some Die Hard.
Everybody loves Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great film. I really enjoy it. Like, that's the one thing I miss about cable is every time it was on, I would just watch it. No matter where it was in the film, no matter what time of day it was, no matter what I had to do. It's like, oh, Die Hard's on, and it's like a third of the way over. I'm just going to finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few movies that you can do that with. Like for me personally, I don't like to start movies or watch movies that have already started. I like to sit down and watch them from the beginning. But there's a few where if it's on TV and I have nothing else to do, it could be halfway through or almost over. I'll just think, oh, this is a great movie. I'll sit down and watch it. Die Hard's one of them.
Girl.
Damn girl. And I feel that way about any Star Trek episode. Like, especially like a TNG episode, or Deep Space Nine's a little more difficult at this point because I have to remember where we are.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, I haven't seen this one yet, so I'm not really super sure what's going on. Because I saw this episode on Heroes and Villains one day, or Heroes and Icons, and I was like, man, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is just so weird because O'Brien's like separating his food at the dinner table, and like his wife's a real asshole because he just came back from like this 20-year quote unquote prison sentence, and he's separating his food, and she fucking laughs in his face. Like, what are you doing, you fucking maniac? It's like, bitch, I mean, that's not nice at all. Like, come on.
In all fairness, as far as they're all concerned, he was only gone for a couple of hours.
Yeah,
like
but
they
have some fucking awareness here, man. Like,
Yeah.
think about what's going on. Like, the only person that really seems to be like keen to his needs is Julian, and that's it. Like,
it's because Julian's always keen to his needs.
Yeah.
I'll swallow it. Yeah. Get it all, yeah, you bitch. But that's the only thing I'm saying. Like, I don't know, man. It just seems quite odd to me that she's just like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, yeah, this is what I used to do in prison. And you're just like, oh, shit. You just laughed in that motherfucker's face. Damn.
Bitch.
Yeah, you suck.
And then they go to bed, and O'Brien can't sleep in a soft bed anymore because he spent 20 years on the ground. So Keiko finds him sleeping on the floor.
Yeah, man. Hard times. He put hard times.
This is
really,
like
I think O'Brien was just trying to get away from her.
No shit.
He finally has an excuse. He was trying to get away from her, but he was tired, so that's as far as he could go.
Maybe, you know what? I'm starting to think maybe this whole espionage thing wasn't an accident. Like, he thought he was going to go to, like, really away from her. And then he was like, what? It was only like a 4-hour prison? But I still get the torture of an actual prison? This is bullshit. Now I have to go back to Keiko?
And she's just going to yell in my face.
Fucking mock my PTSD? Thanks, bitch.
Yeah. Oh, that's real funny, Miles. You're a stupid idiot.
Well, not to skip ahead, but that's basically what she did after Cisco relieves him of duty. And he just kind of disappears for what I guess was an hour. He finally walks back into the room, and instantly Keiko's just in his face.
Yeah, like, Miles, you've been gone. Where have you been? They've been gone for an hour. He's like, that's 10 years of prison time. I've been gone. And I like the fact that, like, he is the, like, quintessential, stereotypical, like, unhinged coworker where, like, the first place he goes
is the bar.
No, the first place he goes after he gets relieved of duty is he goes looking for Julian. I'm gonna fucking kill that motherfucker. And like he just starts yelling at Julian. Way to go, dickhead. I can't believe you would do that to me. It's like, dude, you're not helping your case here, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're just making it look worse.
Like, yeah, let's make it even more obvious that you're kind of fucking unhinged.
Yeah, that you're a maniac.
But you did get out of that scene, you did get the first I guess tug at the heartstrings moment of the episode when he looks at Julian and says, "Don't you get it? We're not friends."
Yeah, but he wasn't talking to your mans and them. He was talking
he was talking to both of them.
He was talking to that guy.
He was talking to both of them.
No, I don't think he would speak.
Because the O'Brien that they knew that they were friends with died in the prison. You see.
Yeah. It's all very like just sad. Like it's just sad. Like this is just a really dark episode, and O'Brien's just, I mean, you can see that he's clearly just struggling with all of this stuff, and you just feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's material that they never really covered in Star Trek before, which I think is probably one of the reasons why I latched onto it so much, as it being one of my favorite episodes of Deep Space Nine.
No, I can totally see it. It's a great episode.
Mm-hmm. One thing that like kind of confused me about the story is like it seems like they found him guilty of espionage and sent him to prison like really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Like there was no time for Starfleet to step in and be like, hey, could you fucking not, like, let's do an investigation or something and figure out how we're going to take care of it in our own system.
There was no time for that Prime Directive bullshit. They were doing their law.
I mean, like, they sent him through, like, express court or something because it just seems like they could have done something to step in and stop it, but he was, like, found guilty and went to prison and done in, like, just a matter of hours.
Well, there wasn't even, it sounds like there wasn't even, like, a trial of any kind. They just said, oh, this guy's asking too many questions, put him in jail.
Right.
Like, it really...
Just assuming that they put him in trial because, you know, I've been watching a lot of Law and Order and everything.
Because even
they go to jail.
Yeah.
You know even when you're going to space jail,
space prison jail.
Enjoy that. The prison jail of the mind. Whoa.
Prison jail of the mind. That'd be the episode title.
Prison jail of the mind. What are we going to do? We're in prison jail of the mind. This is awful.
But even when they first toss O'Brien in there, the first thing that HR asks him is if he's a seditionist. So, like, clearly, like, that apparently happens frequently on that planet. Like, no matter what you did, they're just going to just toss you in one of those rooms.
This planet clearly is not winning any kind of human rights kind of awards or superlatives, if you will.
Now, I was also a little bit confused. Like, I could never quite figure out if HR was, was he all a figment of O'Brien's imagination and just part of this construct, or was he, like, programmed in, or what?
He was a part of the program, but it was like an immersive program, so
like a holodeck sort of thing.
Yeah, like how the story unfolds is based on the decisions that you make.
So it's like a choose your own adventure prison?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's probably a version of that program that for a different prisoner where HR doesn't die.
Where instead of watching each other masturbate, they just fuck right off the bat. Like, and that changed everything when they were like, hey, let me watch you jerk off first till we can get comfortable with each other. So, like, if you're saying, like, if they would have just banged right away, they would have been prison married, and then that would have been weird because then they would have had to come back to the station, and O'Brien would have been all like, hey, Keiko, I was in jail for 20 years and I got prison married. I'm really sorry about that. Like, would your wife be mad? Like, would she be mad if you got prison married if you were in jail for 20 years, but it was only like 2 hours?
That's a tricky one.
I'm going to say that my wife wouldn't be happy about it.
Yeah, but I mean, you didn't know any different. Like, you were in jail for 20 years and like things are going to happen in jail and you may get jail married, you know?
I think you got to get a pass on that.
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, if O'Brien's going to get a pass on murdering this guy in pretend imaginary jail, then why wouldn't he get a pass on marrying a guy in pretend imaginary jail?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like, I feel like wouldn't the like, even if it didn't really happen, I feel like the Agrathi, the little green aliens, if they're going to throw somebody in jail that quickly, do you not think they would have kept him there longer for murdering an inmate?
You would think so.
Because he says that he was only alone in the cell for like 2 weeks.
But these people don't seem to be like. These people don't seem to be very big on like human rights. So like, if a prisoner gets murdered, who cares?
Yeah, I think if anything, it's going to be more like, man, that guy sucks. So I totally wanted to kill that guy. What a bunch of bullshit.
I mean, it almost seemed like
less holographic mouth to feed.
I kind of wondered if, like, they manufactured the whole, like, let's starve them to see what happens, to see if he would kill them. Like, almost like, hey, maybe if we get him hungry enough, like, he'll just snap and kill the other guy.
Yeah.
You know, because, like he said, they started feeding him, like, the very next day. It seemed like they kind of manipulated that situation, so.
maybe they wanted to see like the bounds that members of the Federation would go, like, to, maybe to use for like their propaganda films later, or like they say they're better than us, but they clearly are not. When put in situations, they murder each other just like anybody else would, and blah blah blah. They're animals,
That could be.
So I don't know.
Sounds like a situation that would make Q proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere Q has like a raging boner and he's like yanking it.
I knew they were a savage child race. I knew it.
This is so awesome. All I had to do was put them in pretend jail and not feed them for a while.
They've probably got cameras on this, and like they put it on like space TV, and he's watching it like it's Big Brother or something like that.
Yeah. And then
somebody get me Jean-Luc on the phone. I'm not gonna laugh in Cisco's face. He'll punch me again.
And he will. Yeah, I mean, and then I guess O'Brien goes to a very dark place. He's got nothing left. Like, he was going to beat his kid, and he doesn't have a job, and he just goes down to the fucking hangar bay and starts knocking over obviously empty containers. Like, why are there so many empty containers?
Yeah, all those empty plastic containers that they always have stacked up in the cargo bay.
It's like, it's so weird. Like, why are there so many empty containers around?
That's why he's so mad. He just had to smash them up. He's like, this makes me so angry that they just leave all this empty shit laying around.
Why can't there be stuff in here for me to hit? It would be so much more satisfying. God, this is the fucking worst.
You'd think they would have at least had a better sound guy to edit that and make them not sound so obviously empty.
Mm-hmm.
But it was 1992 television. They didn't care about
No, it wasn't 92. This was 95, I think.
Mm-hmm. Sounds about right.
Yeah, I want to say this was 95. I had the episode up, but I took it down because, we kind of got what happened here.
Yep, 96. But
96.
Still.
Wow, this was 96.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez Louise.
Do you feel old yet?
I do, but like sometimes I forget how far along this is because I'm still thinking of like TNG time period where it's like the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So to think that this show was on in 1996, it's like, wow, I really didn't watch any of this but I guess at 96 I was 19 and I guess I wasn't trying to watch Star Trek at 19. I was trying to get my dick wet and smoke.
I didn't watch Deep Space Nine hardly at all when it was on first run. It wasn't the one that I could get into. Whereas like most people, I didn't care for the first season, so that's why.
Yeah, you liked Voyager, right? You're a Voyager guy.
I did like Voyager. I mean, Next Generation is still my favorite, and I'll nowadays I'll put Deep Space Nine above Voyager now that I've actually watched all of it. But in terms of enjoyment, while it was on TV, I liked Voyager.
Oh, son.
Still a little skeptical about this one.
James is the guy that'll be doing the Voyager episodes by himself. When none of us show up, James is just talking about Voyager.
Dork Trek downloads are going to drop significantly when it's just me talking about Voyager.
We're going to have the Wheel of Voyager.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Wheel of Voyager.
Although I will say, the Wheel of Voyager idea is a good idea. I remember laughing my ass off when you guys pitched that a few episodes back.
I'm pretty excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that there's a handful of episodes that I think should be omitted from the Wheel that everybody should watch.
No, there's some good Voyager episodes. I'm not going to disagree with you and say that all Voyager is trash, but I'm saying like there are some pretty bad ones. And like part of me is annoyed that they smooth over that Maquis thing too entirely. That could have been your whole first season.
It could have been. You're right.
Where they're just the Maquis and the fucking Federation people are just kind of at each other's throats, and like maybe there's a mutiny or something. But now they just like one episode. Yeah, we're good.
There's still a few episodes peppered through the first season where the Maquis are a little uneasy, and there's a few opportunities for mutiny, but obviously it never really pans out. So they don't drop it completely, but you're right, it could have been a story arc for at least the first season.
Yeah, that shit made me mad, son.
And I actually thought it would have been interesting, and I think I messaged you about it one time, if the entire show had been about the Maquis versus the Federation. Like if the Maquis won and forced like the few remaining Federation people to follow them,
To follow
like
the Maquis.
how different would the show have been if they weren't like concerned with the Prime Directive all the time?
Well, I mean, but the Prime Directive in Voyager is kind of fast and loose. Because I mean, it has to be, you know, like they can't really.
They still follow it like it as often as they can. Like there's even a few episodes I remember where like they meet some new planets and the aliens they're talking to are like, oh, tell me more about this Federation, blah blah blah. And Janeway's like, well, we have this thing called the Prime Directive.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but we like it a lot.
You know, when it's convenient to the plot, we like it.
Yeah, and sometimes it really is, so we kind of got to do it.
And then other times we just go to planets we shouldn't go to, and some stupid little kid steps on some flowers.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, but you know what, though, man? Sometimes that shit's got to happen, son. Sometimes that shit's got to happen.
Yeah. So anyway, while O'Brien is beating some shit up in the cargo bay,
He's just fucking mad.
He spots his eyes on weapons locker number 47 and pulls out a phaser.
I'm gonna kill all my. At first, I was like, man, is he gonna go like postal and kill everybody? But nah.
Well, he does set the phaser to maximum space kill.
Maximum space kill.
But he turns it on his chin. Dun dun dun. Dun dun dun. And the episode's over. O'Brien dies.
He's gonna kill himself. And you're like, dude, man, this is really, it's very powerful. Like this is.
They've never really addressed suicide in Star Trek before.
Yeah, like PTSD.
Because it's a perfect utopian society. Like, why would anybody want to kill themselves?
Yeah, like the only time I remember it coming up was with Worf when he broke his back. But even then, they treated it like a typical Klingon tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't fight anymore, so you have to help me die.
No, this is clearly like mental health. This is like the Star Trek mental health issue.
Yeah.
And it's fucking great. Like it's so well done. It's fucking fantastic.
And Colm Meaney like acts his ass off in this scene. Like,
yeah.
This was the episode that when I was done watching it, I think I picked up my phone and I was gonna text you, Bob, like right away. Like, holy shit, this episode was so great.
Yeah.
And then I think I stopped myself like just short of sending the message because I remembered that you hadn't watched it yet.
Yeah, I hadn't got that far. But I mean, man, it's really powerful stuff. And then you see kind of why O'Brien is tortured so, because he's in the midst of like this crazy hunger fit, him and his cellmate, and O'Brien wakes up in the middle of the night and he thinks he's hiding out on him. They haven't eaten in weeks, and he's like, this son of a bitch is hiding out on me, and he kills him on accident. And then he gets his food and he's like, you were going to split this with me, huh? But he's clearly dead, and you're just like, oh shit, he killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. But so yeah, I don't think we said, but Julian is in the hangar bay now at this point, trying to talk the phaser away from O'Brien's chin.
And he does a really good job. Like even Julian, I thought his acting in this was really strong.
Yeah. This entire scene was really, really well done. And O'Brien starts telling him the story about how he killed Ichar, and that brings up another good point to why this episode was so great, because O'Brien talks about how, you know, growing up, they were taught that in the 24th century, we have a more evolved sensibility, is the popular term they like to throw around. And when it came down to me and him and hunger, he killed the guy.
Yeah.
Just straight up animal instincts.
Mm-hmm. I don't even think he meant to kill him. He just kind of was like...
It was like an anger fight. Like,
yeah.
he was just pissed off. And
they were desperate. They were starving.
But yeah, the actual killing was by accident. But all the same, you know, it was just one of those situations where no matter how evolved you are as a human being,
as a society, if you will,
when it comes down to your survival and being that hungry and desperate, and you know, you and the other guy, you know, short of that other person being like your kid, survival instincts are going to kick in, and you're going to try to be the one that gets the food.
Yeah,
exactly.
Gots to eat, son. And he killed him, and then he's real sad, and then he's got to sit there for 2 weeks, and he killed his. But I mean, at the same time too, he like killed nobody, because it's all just, again, they just fucking with him.
But and that's the way you can easily just say, oh well, you know, it never really happened, you're still a good guy. But I mean, as far as O'Brien's concerned, it happened.
Yeah, and I mean, because it's real to him, you know.
Yeah, and that's what makes the episode so deep.
Sorry.
Jenny, there's no need to apologize for silliness. Come on. What do you do? Then you have to apologize for 7 years of it.
I was just apologizing for interrupting. That's all.
They don't even have to worry about that. That's what we do here. We interrupt, and we're silly. We're silly interrupters.
Okay. Fair enough.
I want to know what kind of murderous rage suddenly went through Julian's mind, though, when O'Brien dropped the line that HR was his best friend.
Yeah, like, hey, what the fuck am I, chopped liver?
Like, I know. Well, like, I want to see Julian just like step back, like, whoa, dude.
Well done. I guess I know where I stand. But I mean, to be fair, you know, they did spend 20 years together. You know, so.
Suddenly, Julian's going into the Gamma Quadrant to get one of those headsets. He's like, I'm going to give this son of a bitch 20 years of a life with me.
Yeah, that guy's a dickhole. And then it's over. I mean, and then they give him some medicine, and you know, they try to deal with his depression, and it's really well done.
Goes in Space Lex Pro.
I think the only thing I think that could have made this episode better was that if it had more lasting effects for the series and wasn't like a one-off filler episode.
But you can say that about plenty of Star Trek episodes. I mean, it doesn't.
I mean, that was the premise of the whole concept for the longest time, was just, you know, the standalone stories. You could put them in any order.
Yeah.
Practically, and it wouldn't matter. But with Deep Space Nine being so story focused, like, this episode was so good that I think if they had switched it up just a little bit, and instead of it being like the Agrathi or whatever they were called, like if it was like the Dominion and it was like Wei Yun or somebody that had put him in prison and had like some sort of like continuing element, like that's the only thing that would have made this episode better.
Well, I kind of like that it was somebody completely different, because it didn't like mess up anything that was already going on with the Dominion or like the Cardassians or whatever. So it didn't like interrupt whatever their canon already is.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
Like,
yeah.
So like these aliens can be just like one and done, and they're gone and they're never going to come back. But like I could see where if like Colmini had, you know, changed his acting a little bit for like the next, I don't know, like 6 episodes or something, and maybe just kind of was a little bit more dark or more aggressive or something, like as he's still fading out of it, you know, and kind of coming back into
like this
society.
This time, like next episode, it's like it never happened. He's back to just being Chief O'Brien.
Right. And I could definitely see that. It does feel like it should have had like a lasting effect for it to be more impactful, you know, as a character development thing.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, space medicine works real well.
That's true.
You know, like space medicine, son, they hook it up. They're like, boom, I'm fixed. Boom. How long is it going to take? A couple of hours. I mean, he was in jail for 20 years in 2 hours. They could fix his ass in no time flat.
That's true.
You know?
If Riker can cure his space herpes before they even pop up, then they can cure O'Brien in like a day or 2.
It's the breeze, Jack. They got this shit figured out. Like, yeah, we got this. But I mean, it's just crazy that, I mean, like, to think, I don't know, man. It was just it was really good. I really like it.
Yeah.
This was a great episode.
This was a great episode.
And I was reading about it, and they were saying that like the guy that wrote the story, he'd been trying to get this episode made since season 1, and the producers just weren't going for it, and they finally got it in season 4. But originally there was no HR. Like, it was just going to be O'Brien was in the jail for 20 years, and the point was he was going to reassimilate to daily life.
Interesting.
But they had an episode that they had planned and never made, where Ensign Sito from the Lower Decks, you found out that she was alive in a Cardassian prison, and she killed her cellmate and suffered from PTSD for the remainder of that episode. And having never made that episode, they just took that element and made the HR storyline.
Yeah, I think the HR storyline works better, and it's O'Brien, because everybody likes O'Brien except Keiko. So it kind of it resonates with you, because you're like, man, that's really good. Poor O'Brien. I'm really glad that everything worked out for him. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, because everybody loves O'Brien.
Everybody loves O'Brien. Well, there you go. So. Except, well, I mean, you know, that's how it goes. So, James, what did you think of the episode, buddy?
I'm going to give it a Deep Space 8.5.
8.5. All right. What about you, Jenny? What do you say?
I think I'm going to give it an 8. I really liked it. Yeah, it was, there was a few little flaws. Like I said, I think it would have been better if it was kind of, you know, spread out a little bit more. But it really reminded me of like a Black Mirror episode, like the way that technology influences our lives. I was like, it's kind of weird, because now Black Mirror is parodying, or, you know, doing a version of Star Trek on their show. So
yeah,
it's kind of neat.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like it. I'm going to say an 8. I thought it was really well done. It was very, it's just sad. Like, I felt terrible for O'Brien, and it was just so good. And I really liked it. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a really good episode. Very personable, tug at the heartstrings. You really feel for O'Brien. Like, I have feelings for O'Brien now that I never knew existed. So it makes him a very likable character. And like, it was wonderful, man. It was great. I really liked it. So there you go. James, I hope you enjoyed being on Dork Trek.
I have. It's a lot of fun.
It's a good time. But yeah,
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. That was really good. I enjoyed that episode a lot. And if you want to come back, if there's other episodes coming up that you like, feel free. I
definitely want to come back for season 5. I forget what episode it is, but it's called The Ship.
Okay, well, we got time.
Yeah, there's plenty of time. And no spoilers, but I want to come back. I want to come back to that simply for Cisco voice.
Okay, I'm into that. And then
a lot of Cisco voice in that episode.
And then who wants to come on? What's her name? We've talked about having her on a couple times, Jenny.
Charlene.
Yeah, we want to have Charlene on. We haven't been able to work that out. She wants to come on too. So it's nice to bring people on just for the fun of it, you know?
We're going to get her on soon. She's just, you know, busy. She's got a new job, and she moved, and
life is hard. We didn't do the show for 2 years because I moved. So yeah, I get it, you know? Yeah, well, that was awesome. Well, thank you guys. And thank you for listening. We're on Patreon. We're up to 26 people. If we get, 100, we'll do Law and Order.
I thought 100 was already a goal for something.
100 was more content. We will review more shows, films based on suggestions of the Patreons. Maybe I'll say if we get to 50, we'll do Law and Order.
Okay. I'm down for that. Because I'm going to watch Law and Order anyway, so I might as well do a podcast about it.
Yeah.
If you get to 27, you'll delete the G.I. Joe episodes.
No, the G.I. Joe episodes are really good, man. That got us all back on track. If it wasn't for G.I. Joe, who knows where we'd be. And I think I
listened to half a G.I. Joe episode when I was during my binge listening. No offense.
I love the G.I. Joe episodes. People really liked it because they forgot how kind of dumb G.I. Joe was. And Transformers was worse.
I didn't watch either one of those. Those are shows for boys.
Yes. I don't believe in that though.
Well, G.I. Joe's a great time. I've got the whole series in that like Foot Locker box set that Shout Factory.
Should have been on the G.I. Joe podcast, so we just would have made fun of you for liking it.
But
Because, man, that show
I'm all about kicking the mustard out of some hot dogs.
was not great. That is definitely nostalgia. So
You've seen the dubs, right? Like where they dub over G.I. Joe?
yeah.
Okay.
Actually, speaking of G.I. Joe slightly, some of those cats are going to be at the Cincy Comic Expo too.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet, man. I'm not going to go. I mean, I'll probably go. Yeah. I always show up just for a little while. It's cool, man. It all works out.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to go because I've got a new space baby on the way.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
So, but all right, everybody. Thank you, James, for joining us. We really appreciate it. And Dork Trick will be back next week. Oh, and Saturday, I'm going to release part 2 of actually, I don't even know if I ever put the first one up. No, I think I did put the first one up. Part 2 of Dork Trick Adventures, that'll be out. And then on our YouTube page is actually the video of the playthrough pod. So you can go to YouTube, look for Dork Trek, and we're trying we got like 18 subscribers on our YouTube page, bro, because fucking blowing it up. I'm just really having fun making video. I don't know why. So
video is fun.
I'm gonna try to do more of it. We'll see what happens. I might as well. Got nothing else to do. So yeah, man. So thank you for listening, and we will be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.